In the dim glow of a bustling city restaurant, where the clatter of silverware and murmured conversations formed a symphony of urban isolation, Sarah clutched her son's small hand tighter than usual, her heart pounding like a drum in a storm. She had arrived at this blind date not out of hope, but out of sheer desperation, her worn-out dress clinging to her frame like a faded memory of better days, and little Tommy's wide eyes scanning the room with innocent curiosity that masked the exhaustion etched into his mother's face. As the man across the table, the CEO whose name she barely remembered from her friend's insistent setup, settled into his seat, Sarah's voice trembled as she apologized profusely for bringing her child along, explaining in rushed whispers how the babysitter had cancelled at the last minute and there was no one else to turn to, her words tumbling out like apologies for her very existence. But instead of the expected frown or polite dismissal, the CEO simply smiled, a warm, genuine curve of his lips that seemed to light up the shadows around them, and he said something that would unravel the tightly wound threads of her life forever. If you believe in the power of kindness and the beauty of second chances, hit that like button right now, drop a comment sharing your own story of unexpected grace, share this video with someone who needs a reminder that hope can bloom in the unlikeliest places, and don't forget to subscribe to Moments of Love for more tales that touch the soul and celebrate the human spirit. Sarah's life had been a relentless cascade of hardships ever since her husband walked out 3 years ago, leaving her with a toddler and a mountain of bills that seemed to grow taller with each passing month, like weeds choking the garden of her dreams. She worked 2 jobs, one as a waitress in a dingy diner where the tips were as scarce as smiles, and another as a freelance cleaner for office buildings after dark, her hands calloused from scrubbing floors and her back aching from carrying trays laden with other people's indulgences. Tommy, her bright-eyed 4-year-old with curls that bounced like springs and a laugh that could melt the coldest heart, was her anchor in her ache. He spent his days in a subsidized daycare that smelled of crayons and regret, and his nights curled up beside her on a sagging mattress in their cramped 1-bedroom apartment, where the walls whispered echoes of unpaid rent notices. Every morning, Sarah would wake before dawn, her eyes heavy with unspoken fears, preparing a meager breakfast of oatmeal and sliced apples, all while whispering promises to Tommy that one day things would get better, even as doubt gnawed at her insides like a persistent hunger. Friends had urged her to date again, to find someone who could share the load, but Sarah resisted, her trust shattered like glass underfoot, until her best friend, Maria, set up this blind date with a man named Alex, insisting he was different, a successful CEO of a tech firm who valued authenticity over appearances. Yet, as Sarah sat there that evening, Tommy fidgeting with a crayon on a napkin, she felt exposed, vulnerable, like a beggar at a banquet, and her apology spilled forth not just for the intrusion but for the chaos that defined her world. The CEO, Alex, with his sharp suit that spoke of boardrooms and breakthroughs, didn't recoil as Sarah had braced herself for. Instead, his smile lingered, softening the edges of his chiseled features, and he leaned forward slightly, his eyes meeting hers with a depth that made her breath catch. He told her, in a voice steady and kind, that he was glad she had brought Tommy, because life wasn't about perfect setups but about real moments, and perhaps this was the most honest start to any date he had ever experienced. Sarah's cheeks flushed with a mix of embarrassment and relief, her mind racing through the what-ifs that had plagued her on the subway ride over. What if he judged her for her struggles? What if Tommy's inevitable questions disrupted the evening? What if this was just another dead end in her labyrinth of disappointments? But Alex shifted the conversation effortlessly, asking Tommy about his favorite superheroes with genuine interest, drawing out giggles from the boy that Sarah hadn't heard in weeks, and as the appetizers arrived, steaming plates of pasta that Tommy eyed with wide wonder, Sarah felt a tiny crack in the armor she had built around her heart. The evening unfolded like a slow-blooming flower, with Alex sharing snippets of his own life, not the polished resume of success but the raw edges. How he had grown up in a single-parent home himself, his mother juggling 3 jobs to keep the lights on, how those memories fueled his drive but also left him longing for connections that went beyond business deals. Sarah listened, her fork pausing midair, as he described the loneliness of his high-rise office, the empty penthouse that echoed with achievements but no warmth, and for the first time in years, she felt seen, not as a struggling single mom but as a woman with stories worth hearing. As the night deepened, the restaurant's ambiance shifted from lively chatter to intimate glow, candles flickering like stars in a velvet sky, and Sarah's initial tension began to ebb away, replaced by a tentative spark of connection that she dared not name. Tommy, growing sleepy against her side, doodled on his napkin with crayons the waiter had kindly provided, his little fingers creating worlds of color that mirrored the unexpected vibrancy creeping into the conversation. Alex didn't press for details of her hardships, but when Sarah let slip about the eviction notice lurking in her mailbox and the medical bills from Tommy's recent asthma flare-up that threatened to drown her, he didn't offer pity. Instead, he shared how his company had a program for employee families, hinting at possibilities without making promises, his words weaving a thread of hope that Sarah grasped like a lifeline. Yet, doubt lingered in the recesses of her mind, whispering that this was too good, too surreal, that men like Alex didn't linger in the lives of women like her. And as dessert arrived, a decadent chocolate cake that Tommy devoured with messy delight, Sarah wondered if this was merely a fleeting kindness or the dawn of something transformative. The suspense built in her chest, a quiet storm of emotions, as Alex paid the bill without fanfare, insisting it was his pleasure, and suggested they walk to the nearby park, where the city lights danced on the water like fireflies, extending the evening into a realm where time seemed to stretch and heal. In the weeks that followed, what began as a blind date evolved into a tapestry of shared moments, each one layering emotional depth onto their budding relationship, like brushstrokes on a canvas revealing a masterpiece hidden beneath. Sarah's days remained grueling, her shifts at the diner leaving her feet throbbing and her spirit frayed, but now there were texts from Alex in the quiet hours, simple messages that checked on Tommy's latest drawing or offered encouragement after a tough day, reminding her that she wasn't alone in the fight. He didn't swoop in like a savior with grand gestures. Instead, he showed up quietly, picking them up for weekend outings to the zoo where Tommy's laughter echoed through the enclosures, or helping Sarah navigate job applications for a position at his firm that matched her overlooked skills in organization and empathy. Challenges persisted. Tommy's asthma attacks. That sent them rushing to the emergency room in the dead of night, Sarah's ex resurfacing with half-hearted claims on custody that stirred old wounds, and the financial tightrope that threatened to snap at any moment, but Alex's presence became a steady anchor, his smiles turning into shared confidences under starry skies, where he revealed his own vulnerabilities, like the pressure of leading a company through economic turbulence and the guilt of past relationships lost to ambition. Sarah struggled with letting him in, her walls built high from betrayal, but each small act of kindness chipped away at them. The way he read bedtime stories to Tommy with animated voices, or how he cooked simple meals in her tiny kitchen, turning chaos into comfort. The narrative of their lives intertwined, building suspense in the quiet uncertainties. Would Sarah accept the job offer that could change everything? Would Alex's board approve his push for more family-friendly policies inspired by her story? Would their fragile bond withstand the storms ahead? As months turned into a season of tentative renewal, Sarah found herself transforming, her once dulled eyes regaining a spark of vitality, her steps lighter despite the burdens that still pressed upon her shoulders. Tommy flourished under the subtle influences, his drawings now featuring a tall figure alongside Mommy and him, symbols of a family pieced together from broken parts. Alex, too, changed, his corporate armor softening as he prioritized evenings with them over late-night meetings, discovering joy in the mundane magic of playground swings and homemade cookies. The climax of their journey came during a quiet dinner at home, where Sarah, heart racing with a mix of fear and resolve, confessed her deepest insecurities, laying bare the scars of abandonment and self-doubt, and Alex responded not with words alone but with actions that spoke volumes, pulling her into an embrace that promised partnership, not rescue. Their story wasn't one of fairy tale perfection but of real, gritty perseverance, where struggles gave way to shared strength, and as they navigated the holidays together, Tommy's eyes lighting up at the tree Alex helped decorate, Sarah felt the weight of her past lifting, replaced by a future painted in hues of possibility. The emotional crescendo built to a poignant realization that kindness, when genuine, could rewrite destinies, turning a single mom's apology into a symphony of second chances. If this story has touched your heart, stirred memories of your own trials and triumphs, or reminded you of the quiet heroes in everyday life, please like this video, leave a comment below sharing how it moved you, and subscribe to Moments of Love for more inspiring narratives that celebrate resilience and love in all its forms. Your engagement means the world and helps spread these messages of hope. Before we wrap up, I'd love for you to comment this line: kindness changes everything.